the dividend of unemployment and an underemployment. So then again, at the end of the day, we see for those who are actually employed, only 17% of those who are actually employed are in paid employment are youth. Even 28% who are actually in paid employment in Uganda are also women. But again, we see most of our labor force is in what we call the vulnerable employment. Vulnerable in terms of the hours of work, in terms of where you work, in terms of how much you're getting paid for it, and in terms of the issues around safety nets within the job market we are advocating for. So again, we see fewer women in this kind of better jobs, more women and vulnerable modes of employment. And in this case, for us, we look at labor externalization as one of those components of whereby it's vulnerable employment, and you see increasingly young women going out for this kind of vulnerable job. High levels of unemployment for the youth, whereby even within the country itself, for every 10 people you see who are adults, 3 are unemployed and they are youth out of this total. And so we have seen that government for sure has done its efforts through the Ministry of Gender. We see in place the Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program. We have the Uganda Livelihood Program, Youth Livelihood Program. These are programs that government has put in place to actually address some of these problems. Issues like underemployment and unemployment at the end of the day. But such initiatives are yet to actually lead to effectiveness in terms of driving unemployment within the country. And such that if these initiatives are actually working, then we need to see that the mode of labor externalization for such precariousness in job opportunities are actually going down, not instead going up. So we see that these initiatives of YLP and OEP are actually not giving us what we are looking out for. So again, what we also see is the youth, the ones you see here today, most of you do not want to dig. We call it agriculture. You look at agriculture as dig below. I know it says dignity below me, to be seen digging. So how can we ensure that you look at agriculture as a form of employment, a good form of employment for earning money? You see? So we look at agriculture, even someone cannot tell you that, especially girls, that where does your boyfriend work? And then you tell him he's a farmer. No one wants to hear that. So everyone wants to tell you their boyfriend is a lawyer, is a doctor. So we need to see how best can we revamp agriculture to make sure the young ones are coming to look at it as a form of alternative for money making. So now from this perspective, you find that government has come up through the National Development Program, the National Development Plan, the NDP3, with a program called Agro-Industrialization. And this program essentially links agriculture to industry. And we want to make sure we promote this program to see that the youth and the women out there can actually benefit from this program and invest in these programs to see that they get more decent jobs, better decent employment, and more income. And in such a way that if these jobs are actually lucrative, then we will see the people actually going out for labor externalization, whereby it's not actually in their best interest, actually get absorbed along these value chains. But again, we also want to say that those who are actually going abroad is in the positive sense. That what are you going to do abroad? Which kind of skills have you learned from there that you can come back to invest within the value chains? So that you don't just go to sit in someone's house, but you can actually pick something out from that house to say, okay, I think this would be the best way to pick this skill for me to absorb myself along the value chains within agriculture or within industry. So we want to see that kind of integration for those who are going out, even with those who have actually invested their money, saved their money, instead of sending it back home and they actually cheated. You've sent it for apartments, they do not exist. You've sent it for land, it does not exist. So how can you actually save your resources that actually that government has put in place such a program that you can see where your money, you can invest it and invest it for actually better incomes, and it says from where you have gone to coming back such that we work, the government is working for you, and the investments within the country can work for you to invest better. So we need to see those kind of skills coming on board. And I'm very happy to see Haji Muawiyah here, because he's going to give us that kind of interesting story on how best can you invest and learn from where you have come from to do better back home. So it's from this perspective that actually this meeting is ongoing, to see those who are actually going, how can you invest better back home, such that you don't come back and crying that what took you there, you do not see your fruits of your selfless, what you've left behind going down the drain when you send back your money, or there's nothing on ground for you to see. And better still, if you get some skills, how can you better use those skills to invest back home? So in that sense, I would like to make sure we start off now with the dialogue in terms of understanding. We shall kick off with the panel. And in this session, sorry, I was speaking and I'm moderating, as my colleague also comes by to do the moderation of the session, Elizabeth. Thank you for listening to me for now. Now, we are going into the next bit on the, I'm hoping we are catching up with time. The panel discussion that will leave it a lot to hear these stories, and in terms of even holding government accountable for what they have for us, or how best can government also replan to make sure their government programs work for the young ones, both women and the youth who are going abroad. How best can we think for them in terms of they can still go, because externalization is not bad, it's also a form of remittances, but how can they be in that position that they can invest their resources well? So in this regard, allow me to invite the panel to the forefront, to the front, for us to have this discussion on the role of labor externalization in fostering sustainable agro-industrial value chains in Uganda. So when I call out your name, please feel free to come up in the front. It's free sitting. We have Commissioner of Employment Services in the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Mr. Lawrence Egulu. I think he's been seen on TV several times discussing issues around social protection, discussing around employment. So it's been very popular for the last whole month, Mr. Lawrence Egulu, Obugalo, as we say. So then we have Ms. Shamim Nabad in Sereko. She's the Director, Kauthar Training Center for Migrant Workers. And I think you're welcome, Shamim. You'll tell us more about what the Kauthar Training Center actually does and which kind of skills you impart to the young ones as they go. Then we have Ms. Enid Nambuya. She's the Executive Director of the Uganda Association for Externalized Externalization of Recruitment and Association. Isn't it recruitment? Yes. You're welcome, Enid. You know, UERA is a long thing, so you can end up getting lost in the breakdowns of the acronym. And then we welcome you, Haji Mr. Mukasa Muawia, the director of KHM International Consultants. He's also the director and founder of Kapeka Agro and Livestock Farm and Calif Laboratory. You're welcome, Haji. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. We've also been seeing Haji a lot on the Seeds of Gold. I think I followed you there. I think that's why I tracked you down for today's meeting, to make sure you're here to share your knowledge with the people here. So to kickstart off this, I think I can give each at least 1 or 2 minutes to talk about yourselves and what you're doing. Then we kick into the big discussion of today's agenda.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm called Mukasa Muawia, as it has been mentioned on the papers. I'm the director of KHM International Consultants. I'm happy to be here with my bosses, Mr. Iguru and Madam Enid, and also to see the youth to discuss this important issue.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Commissioner of Employment, the Director, EPRC, our colleagues Shamim from Kauthara and Mr. Muawia from KHM, all the youth present here, protocol observed. My name is Enid Nambuya. I work as the Executive Director of the Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies. I lead an association of members who are made up of companies that have been registered and allowed to take persons, both male and female, abroad for work. And we are regulated by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. The association has been around since 2013, but externalization of labor has officially been in place since 2005. But before that, people were traveling on their own, and they can even still travel on their own, as long as you fulfill the requirements of the ministry. We are very pleased to be here. The topic of discussion is very key. How can externalization of labor contribute to the issue of agriculture? And we'll be very happy to share our thoughts with you and also hear from you as young people in this institution. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madina. Dr. Swaibu, pleasure meeting you finally. Rehema, thanks for looking me up. And colleagues at the high table, Mwawia, Enid, Shamim, it's good to be here, and thanks for the invitation. My name is Lawrence Egulu. I'm the Commissioner Employment Services. Essentially means I am in charge of advising government on how to create jobs, and most times they don't listen, meaning that I went to school, but whatever I tell them is not always welcome. But that's my job. I will tell them as it is, much as I'm part of the civil service. I'm very happy to be here and to see young people. I can't imagine I left this university 29 years ago, when most of you were not born. I'm glad to be back in this environment. And I need to go and see the ivory tower. I hope it is still rebuildable back. I'll speak as Commissioner Employment Services, but I will also speak as a returnee migrant. I was away from this country for 20 years. So I have some experience on what happens out there when you are a young person in a new environment. What happens out there and what do you bring back? How is life back home finally when you decide that it's time to get back to Mother Uganda? So I'm very glad to interface with those traveling for work abroad, as well as for those who might want to travel abroad, or those who are abroad and want to come back, and probably they have no idea what is waiting for them. The other thing I will announce is that, as you are aware, we suspended externalization of labor on the 20th of March. So nobody has been traveling abroad. I hope nobody has been trafficked. So officially it has been closed from 20th of March, and we are reopening today. So officially you'll be allowed to travel again, cleared through the right channels for you to work abroad. So it's a pleasure for me to be here, to be part of this dialogue.
Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Commissioner, Mr. Guru, ED, EPRC, Madam Executive Director, Enid Nambia, my colleague, and ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. My name is Hajat Shamim Nabale Nsedeko. I'm the Director in charge of Operations, Kauthara Training Center. Established in 2015, Kauthara Training Center trains girls going to the Middle East. Like how the Commissioner has told you, I'm also a returnee. I've worked abroad for 10 years, so I really know exactly what's happening there and what you can do when you come back. So when I get that time, then I'll share my story with you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, the panel. I think you can give a big applause for the panel. We do have an esteemed panel here for us to hold them accountable on what we need to better, and also to share with us how best we can go out there and be better people. Recall, we have people online, even from Netherlands. We have our colleagues from the Netherlands, from Kenya, who are listening in, our partners on this subject matter, in terms of how best can we look at externalization as a positive business, or a positive form of employment, and not in a negative sense, as media actually projects. And now to dig into the discussion, I'll start right, of course, from, we really usually have to put, government has to set the role of the discussion going on. And I'll ask Mr. Gulu, in your sense, in terms of how you do the day-to-day planning for this country, how best can we, labor externalization, be structured in such that we see not the day-to-day business of doing things in terms of let's them go out, because we are looking for employment for these guys who are unemployed. Now we're doing something for them. But how can we structure it in such a way that they go with a mindset that they can actually positively come back to invest in the lucrative businesses back home?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Madina. I'm not so sure whether everybody understands the process. I don't know if you want me to start from...
We shall go back and forth on this. So you can even
Okay.
start with the process and as we engage.
Maybe just to set it rolling. So 2005 is when we government officially streamlined the industry. In other words, the travel abroad for work. Before that, everything was, cheo, In other words, everybody was technically being trafficked. I get a job in Dubai because I have a sister there. I travel. I'm sure you also trafficked, actually, because you didn't go through the right channels of getting jobs abroad. Now, the legislation stems from the Employment Act of 2006. But in this case, for those who are lawyers, the regulations we are talking about are, to cite, it's called Employment, in brackets, Recruitment of Ugandan Migrant Workers Abroad. So that's what sets the tone in terms of the legal framework. And then it gives 3 pathways for you to travel. So you can travel through a licensed company, which we license. There are now 210 of them. Like the one that Muawiyah, for instance, heads, KHM. You can travel abroad on your own if you get a job. If you get through us, we'll give you certain tips, the do's and don'ts, and we'll also scrutinize your documents to see to it that you have the right papers. You're not being lied to. The job exists, the salary exists, and the company, actually, you're dealing with human beings and you're not being messed around. Because we've also seen people who have got jobs abroad, they come to us, they show us documents, and then you realize this guy is being conned. So we tell you, you've lost your money to a con man or a con woman. So we look at those. The third option for you to travel abroad is government to government. So government can also deal with another government to place Ugandan migrant workers abroad. Now, the third option, we've not done much of it. It's the first one, where the companies under the Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies are able to get jobs for workers abroad, and then they're able to get those jobs. There have been a number of benefits. Coffee, or cotton, in fact, cotton is now not anywhere in the picture. Coffee receives about $550 million a year. That's what we get from coffee. This industry, from the Middle East alone, we get about $700 million. Globally, it's about $1.5 billion. So you see that there is money in the business for the economists here. I'm sure already you are drawing some regression lines, and to see that this is a sector worth investing in. So there is money in it. A maid in Uganda receives about $20, $25 a month. A maid in Saudi Arabia will get $250 a month. So that's 10 times the amount. I don't know what soldiers in Uganda receive, but if they went to Afghanistan, the salary is about $1,000. In Iraq, it's about $500. So it makes economic sense to travel abroad to get these jobs. And of course, you come back with a number of skills which you will have gained abroad. skill sets, most of the people that we send abroad, for instance, for now, are domestic workers. About 75% of our externalized workers are domestic workers, of whom the majority, of course, are women. Now, of course, the downside also exists. You know, we've seen all in, you know, on our cell phones, you know, I'm sure you're already scared, some of you, you know, you see all these videos. I was denied food, I was sexually abused, I was thrown down from a third floor window. Some of those are correct, but some of them are also myth, you know. A Ugandan, when they get tired, they will always look for a way of coming back home. And one of the ways of coming back home is to call Lawrence Egulu and make all the loud noise in Luganda and English. That also exists. You girls also lie, you know. You also lie. You don't tell the complete truth, you know. So that also spoils the name of this country, that your girls out there are the ones that make the loudest noise because they simply want to come back, or because they're missing their food. The matoke is the best food in the world, so I'm told. So njagala kudaye wafe. You want to go back home.
So Lawrence,
Yes.
as in the ministry, how do you usually handle such situations
Yes.
that actually create such bad publicity?
Thank you. I was
The
just coming to
organization.
you. Yes. So one, and the most important thing, is pre-departure orientation and training, which they do. You know, for instance, under Milta. So there are 17 training companies which do prepare workers for travel. You know, a mindset. You know, you've been to Harvard, you've been to Leeds, you've been to Williams College, you've been to New York University, but you also need an orientation. Now, somebody from my village, or from Kotido, from Kasese, who has never been to the airport, who has never held a passport, they think dollars exist on trees, okay? So they need an orientation, and the orientation is a mindset issue. When you travel abroad, you're going to work, okay? You're going to work. You're not going to sit in your father's house, because the person abroad has paid money for you to work for them, and they're going to pay you back for your labor. So we emphasize that to the training companies, that these people need to understand the work ethics are a little different. There is a bit of time management you have to put into place. If it is 8 hours of work, it is 8 hours of work. You know, it's not time for you to run away and start watching telenovelas and, you know, Mizigo Express or whatever it is which is on TV. No. Put the phone aside. Yes, there are issues where we have been told people have been denied their phones. But there's a history to that too. I didn't bring you all the way to Saudi Arabia for you to slay on phone, to be sending your pictures everywhere. You know, you have come to work. So there are work issues here. Hours of work, hours of rest. Yes, you have rights, but rights also have obligations. You know, so those are the things that we pump into our girls to make sure that they know their rights, but they also have issues around obligations towards work. When you go to learn, you go to learn, to work, and to earn a living and come back. And of course, we have issues around contracts. It's 2 years. All these people are signing 2-year contracts. Now, okay, you're going in December 2020, then you have to come back around 2022, okay? So somewhere along the line, by April, May, June 2021, somebody gets tired and like, oh my God, you mean I have another 18 months in this place? Until I left my husband with that neighbor, I don't know if I'm going to go back and I find my husband still mine. Until my child, I don't know. Until mom, you know, all those things. Now, you have to be mentally, you know, prepared that you're going to be away for 2 years. And in those 2 years, you're going to gain some things, but you're also going to lose some. You're not going to speak that Luganda of you as Acholi or Nyankore, no, unless you call back. So forget about certain things. You know, if you have been going to Nexus, the club, every weekend, there is no Nexus, the club in Saudi Arabia. Those are things you'll have to lose. You're going to work. So those are the, you know, those are the downsides, and there are also lessons that you must be able to be able to put into place when you come back. But in terms of skills, you know, preparation for going away and you're coming back, I think what I
wanted to drive
Yes.
out here for how best can we, like probably from the ministry, because right now, exactly as you've indicated, most of those who are going out are the domestic workers.
Yes.
And that's the structure we have, the biggest structure we have for externalization. But how can we also make sure that we have the other bit of externalized workers who actually can be employed in such a way that the skills they'll be getting out there are some of the skills that you want them to bring back home to be absorbed in terms of technology, in terms of for the high end, if it's textile, they know how to do the textile bit of it. And so that way they come back with these skills that actually can drive them, other than say they know how to operate a washing machine.
I think that's where we've not done very well, actually, as government, because there is supposed to be government-to-government placement, which we have nobody has been placed as government-to-government. But the recruitment companies for whom we have, outsourced this job they're not prevented from sending out any other category of workers. And it happens, we have a few engineers out there, we have a few doctors, architects, nurses, and so on. Yes, they do, but the numbers are still small. And I think that's where we need to do more. This is where government needs to help the companies in terms of accessing new markets. Because for me, honestly, I'm not, who says that Uganda is a country of maids? Yeah. Who says that Uganda is a country only of externalized workers to the Middle East? No, we are very well-educated people too. So we can do better. And this is where government needs to work best. I mean, I'm part of government, but sometimes we don't speak the same language. We are always going to be told, there's no money for this, there's no money for that. But we need to expand the skills base so that people you're tired of Makerere University, you want to go to Harvard next to do the same job, you should be able to do it, okay? So those are the kind of engagements that we need to understand better. We need to do more bilateral agreements with foreign companies, countries abroad, so that we have a certain caliber of sets, because then the skills base is higher and also the salaries will be higher. And then the fees to these people, the recruitment companies, will also be better. For instance, if your external salary is only 250,000.
Look, as you posted on, I know you have a lot to share, and we are going to be coming back to that. I need to call to either Enid here, since you've talked about the issues of them being an association, and they work together in terms of how do they bring together these associations of externalized for recruitment workers association? How do you actually do it such that the people you're representing, the young ones, in terms of how best do you usually talk to them, and the benefits they have in terms of the jobs they're going out for, and how best they can invest back. If I don't know if that's part of your program you might have, in terms of how do you orient them as they're going out there, that they actually can come back home to invest in terms of the money they've actually made.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Madam Medina, apologies. You've asked a very interesting question, and difficult too, because the way the value chain is planned is that we advertise, our companies advertise, Mr. Mwawi here will advertise for the jobs that he wants to have, and the ministry has made sure that Shamim trains these people for 7 days before they travel. So the work is kind of shared. Okay, but the company will, at the time that they are recruiting, will inform people about the contractual obligations, the kind of money they're likely to gain, saving culture, putting money in an account, and so on and so forth. I think where the biggest challenge is the background of the person. If someone has not worked before, if someone has not traveled before, there is a lot you cannot prepare them for. They have to experience it. Even if you traveled for leisure, you'll get there and spend a day or 2 or 3 finding your feet. But here you are, earning a certain amount of money that you've not earned before at home, and planning for it. That even if Shamim was to tell you you're going to earn $250, in your mind it's like, that's 800,000, and right now you're earning 100 or not earning at all. It may be difficult to actually inform you that go back home and invest. They go through a process of informing. And I think for most investors, like Mr. Mwagia will tell us, the success of the investment is in the doing. Because you may fail, you may succeed, but it may be very difficult for me to tell a young person that if you invest here, you will fail. My role is to tell you, please save. And you can save by making sure that your money is in an account, or if you're sending it home, save it on an account that you're sure has access by so person ABCD. But there's a propensity to want to invest in land. And I think it has to do with the fact that most women don't own land. And I want to first ask a question. Can any of the young people seated here raise their hands if they own land? Whether it is a Chivanja, whether it is a leasehold, whatever. Can anyone here who owns land put up their hand? Okay. What kind of land do you own and how big is it?
It's a plot.
Okay.
It's 2550.
Okay. Did you buy it or inherit it?
I buy it.
Okay. What did you do to own that land?
I was in Jordan.
Wonderful. So, and what are you doing here today? Are you a student or you are attending as a returnee?
I'm attending as a returnee.
Excellent. Can we give her a very big clap? So, for the rest of the females in this room, we don't have land. So she managed to go abroad, spent there 2 years, saved, came back and bought a plot. So now you can understand the trajectory. So if you are going into agriculture, that land may not be big enough for the big agricultural products, but may be useful for value addition, may be useful for the quick growing crops if someone is near Kampala. Like during COVID, we are all being told to eat vegetables, fruits, etc. Those small things that can grow very quickly, herbs, etc. So in terms of investment, were you planning to grow vegetables, or were you planning to buy a house, to put a house in that land? What was the purpose of your choice?
My plan was to build in rentals because I was working on my papers again to go back. Just COVID stayed me.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I think now you understand where it is coming from. So the issue is land big enough to build a house, to put rentals. The agriculture bit does not come in because in our minds, to be an agriculturalist or a farmer, you must have lots of land, an acre, etc., etc. So just to take back the trajectory of this discussion, Madam Medina, women don't own land. And if you look at the statistics of women who own land, which I don't have with me here, but which I know you will have, I think 90% of the land that is in individual holdings is owned by men. And then those men are adults, be up 35 plus. So even the youth don't own land. So when it comes to planning for how to use my land, as soon as a young person inherits land, the first thing they do is sell it for something else. Sell it to travel to Jordan, sell it to travel to America, sell it to go to Canada, sell it to buy a border. So even when we inherit it, we are not thinking of what I can do with this land, using, but how I can extend it for something else that is more attractive to me as a young person. I just thought I should bring that out quickly. So when you're telling a young person, invest, a young person will want to be dressed like him, as you can see, maybe own that camera and have a good time. When you talk about agriculture, why aren't young people doing agriculture? The question you asked earlier, I can answer very quickly from my own experience. If you were in school, anything related with agriculture was a punishment. How many of you know agriculture as a punishment? Like you went to dig or you went to harvest, but as a punishment. Or you are in agriculture class, whereby the agriculture class, you must have a plot, you must grow something. Can I see those hands? Who was ever punished by agriculture? You're just laughing. None of you, I was. You did agriculture as a punishment, not as something that is viable. And then the school would have maybe a plot for those who are doing agriculture. It was nothing to emulate. It was nothing to be proud of. And as you said, you're talking about boyfriends being known as farmers, even parents. People would not acknowledge their parents as farmers or fisher people, no. You'd maybe say business person or something, and then if you dug further, you realize the parent dealt maybe in agricultural produce. I just thought I should pitch that in very quickly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Enid. I think, Shamim, based on your relation in terms of how you train the young ones, as you're going through this training, do they even ask any questions beyond which kind of, how do they invest their money, or is it something you actually impart on them that can you kindly save to invest correctly? And the kind of skills they actually undergo, which kind of skills are these? And can we actually change them, as the commissioner indicated, that probably as government they will do things differently, and you as an institution that is actually training them will also have to do things differently for training the kind of people, the skills they need? Or is the timeline, even the 7 days, really enough to impart the kind of skills they need when they are going?
Thank you so much. First and foremost, the 7 days is not enough. It's too little for these girls. These girls are coming from different backgrounds. We have now girls who come from Eastern Uganda, Western Uganda, Northern Uganda, and Central. And most of the time you find that these girls do not have even the basic skills, life skills and practicals. And you may find that some of these girls have never used any of the machines, the basic machines in a home, like washing machine, cooker, those machines which are basically in the home, toaster, dryer. So what we do when they come for the 7 days, we take them through the 7 steps. We have a curriculum, but when we looked at that curriculum, it was too much classroom based. So we realized that what these girls need is the practicals, things which are going to help them there. Saudi Arabia is not like any other country. 1, the language barrier. 2, it has, the temperatures are totally different from the other countries. So when we get these girls, we take them through the 7 steps. What are those 7 steps? 1 is goal setting. We take them through goal setting. Do you have a set goal? What are you going to do? What are you planning to do when you come back? So it's quite huge, but we take them through that first. Then secondly, we take them through contract awareness. Do you know your contract? Do you know what it entails? Do you know how many years you're going to be there? In the contract, their contract shows how much money they are going to get. So do you know the amount of money which you are going to get, when you are there? So that is the contract awareness. Then the third one is telephone and social media use. Commissioner hinted it a little bit. Telephone and social media use. How are you going to use your telephone positively? Are you going to be on the phone all the time? Are you going to send WhatsApp messages? We've seen videos which have been sent, negative videos. Why can't you send something positive? Well, we're not saying don't say anything bad. You can say it. But most of the messages which have been coming have been really negative. Talk about something good. They've put you in a home. Your boss is good. Talk about that. Talk about the company which has taken you there and you're earning something. That is the telephone and social media use. Then the fourth one is the customer services. How are you going to be able to work with those people? Customer services. It's very, very crucial. Anywhere. Your attitude. And we always tell them that your attitude determines your altitude. So most of these girls who are going, their attitude is 0. They don't smile. You look at them as if they've, quarreled since morning. And let me tell you something. The Arabs are really loud. They're not like we people here. For us, we are very soft-spoken. But those people are really loud. So we take them through the customer services. How are you going to be able to work with these people? How can you make them like you? So we take them through that also. Then number 5, step 5 is the destination culture. We have our culture here, but they have their culture there. There are certain things which we do here, which are okay. And there are certain things you do there, and they're just not okay. Like kneeling. You can't kneel. You can't go to an Arab and you kneel. No, they don't want that. For them, they think you only kneel to God. You don't kneel to them. So we take them through those nitty-gritties. Then step 6 is the domestic worker services and practicals. These machines, even the flushing toilet. Some of these girls come from the background where they've never seen a flushing toilet. So we take them through that, the washing machines. How do you wash? How do you prepare a meal, a decent meal? How do you prepare salads? So we take them through that. We let them use the machines themselves. Then step 7 is the basic Arabic. I know time is not enough for us. 7 days is not enough for us to train these girls, the basic Arabic. But we try our best because our classes start at 5 a.m. and they go to bed at 11 p.m.
Since the time is not enough, how have you, is it something you have to set yourself, or you have to go through the ministry to again change the 7 days?
Actually, we've talked about it. We have an association which is MILTA, the Association for the Training Centers. So we voiced that through our association to the ministry, telling them that 7 days is not enough.
Yes. So you see now, because since the country is moving towards agro-industrialization, as you're aware through the National Development Plan, we wanted to see how best we can leverage on the people you train. Because probably the skills they get here, they're not the necessary skills they use when they return.
Exactly.
But we want to see if the kind of people you are training, if they can look out for extra skills that can actually improve them when they come back home. So I wanted to understand if you have this kind of, or you need this kind of support, or now that you're knowing it, that we really want to see how best they can actually invest better, how we can change this curriculum to include these kind of opportunities that can be presented back home, such that they can look out for certain skills that within agriculture you can actually invest. And certain skills that will be required.
Yes.
Definitely, a mindset is also a critical issue.
Definitely.
And another bit which is critical is the patience, in terms of you need some bit of money, and then you need how to interact with people in terms of people persons. So we want to see if some of these things need to be integrated at the end of the day within your curriculum to actually foster some of these issues down. So how can we do that? Enid, I think, wanted to jump into,
I wanted to jump in on the issue of people being able to come back with skills that are necessary for agriculture. I think it starts with the placement. So if we are placing persons right now for the domestic arena, it means then that we now must consciously place them in places where they will learn. For example, can we say we are taking them to an agriculture-based region, whereby they will be working with a family that has a farm? It has to be very, very specific. So what you're saying, that maybe we are taking them for farm work, or they are going to work in an area that is agriculture. It has to be very specific, because right now if someone is working in a house, there are those who report back or send pictures that actually the house I'm working with owns camels. I've learned how to feed camels. I met a young lady who had learned how to milk goats, make cheese, and all those things that here we just drink goat milk. Actually, we don't drink it. We just leave it to the kids. So there are certain things which people learn by being placed in a certain area. So unless we specifically now place with that in mind, where you could say, for students, for example, we place people in a place that has an institution that enables people to go out and work while they are also studying. And that's where what Mr. Igulu said about government-to-government placement. He said government has not been successful, but I think they were successful once, but the NGOs fought them. When government tried to place medical workers, they were supposed to place, I think, around 200 medical workers to a country I will not name, but it was in the papers. But they failed because the NGOs, rights NGOs on health, were saying we don't have enough health workers, and now you want to externalize the ones that we have. So that was a government-to-government project that failed because of the zealousness of CSOs. But I'm imagining if we were to do it again, government is better placed to speak to another government on a government's needs, whereby you can say we are bringing students, but allow the students also to work on attachment. So that if they are attached to a farm, maybe a farm in Israel or a farm in Jordan, because Jordan is well known for its farming practices, so is Israel. So you look for a country that has farming expertise that we want to imbibe, and you place people there. It has to be very, very specific, which we can't do now as I'm seated here, but it is something we can take forward and say, okay, farming, NDP3, how do we go around it? Government, agriculture ministers speak to each other. Ministers of education speak to each other, so that it is at that level where skills can be exchanged. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually in this case, what I think, if I can speak what government is looking out for, like now we have the value chain instead for cotton, and they're going to actually be encouraging most cotton growing areas to grow cotton. So probably might not be telling the young ones or the women, go and grow cotton. Yeah. But we want to leverage on those who are actually going out and get the jobs they're dealing out for are in factories, whereby they're actually doing the designs within these factories in terms of mending. You know, these kind of high-end technologies that you find you cannot get them here. but we are getting them jobs that actually they can use some of the skills within these industries, that they can come back if 90 will actually employ you. Or if you opened up your own small machine on the roadside. These are some of the skills that can be transferred for the Ugandan market. So I think, Lawrence, sooner or later you have to tell us how best are we going to strategize, think differently in terms of negotiating for better jobs for the young ones.
But quickly on that one, actually, in terms of the curriculum, and we are reviewing the curriculum right now. And already, you know, my mind is thinking along these lines. You know, Uganda is agro-based. Agro-based, whether it's in terms of the food, or whether it's in terms of the industrialization, or whether it is in terms of employment. So I think it is duty bound that we inculcate in young people traveling abroad the understanding around agriculture, because it's our life. We are here with it, whether we like it or not. So I think it is a mindset issue, yes, absolutely. But it wouldn't hurt that in every training you're being told that, you know, this is the backbone of our economy. And agriculture is not actually that dirty game that only 60-year-old people go into. Even young people can go in. Agriculture can be cool. With a K, not with a C. It's cool, and it's something when you come back you could invest in. But and that's, I think